What is the most bizarre reason a customer got angry with you? I was working at McDonald's. A customer complained that there was not a tomato on her Big Mac. I explained to her that Big Macs do not come with tomatoes unless special ordered. She then proceeded to sing the Big Mac song to me in front of a lobby full of customers, adding the word tomato into the song lyrics in an attempt to prove her point. After I handed him his coffee, instead of saying thank you to him, L told him to have a nice day. He sent an email to corporate and my manager telling them I was rude to him because I didn't follow a company standard. I had a customer storm upstairs to customer services to make a complaint because we'd moved menswear upstairs and he couldn't get upstairs because of his knees. So he went upstairs. About all I could do was call the support desk and apologize for what they were about to receive. Had an older gentleman order a food scale that was like a 10-pound capacity. The platform was a few inches wide. He received it and called me yelling, "How the heck am I supposed to stand on this thing? We are a redistributor," and he was also upset that we sold a product with someone else's instructions and name on it. He was trying to weigh his chicken with it in his hand, damn it. A customer came in to buy hand sanitizer. She brought her bottle to the register to purchase it, saw there was some at the register, then proceeded to share her vast knowledge of swear words with great vigor with me, swearing she would never shop with us again. What? Got yelled at for saying no problem instead of you're welcome. I've been yelled at by a grumpy old man for the same exact thing. I used to work deli for a New England grocery chain. Working in Vermont, working in one of the biggest stores meant that we would often be loaned out during ski season to small stores with big holiday booms. It was very busy for them, about normal for my store. I was slicing cheese for a woman who got real angry that I hadn't stacked her cheese perfectly straight, which blew my mind. Who expects deli sliced cheese to be stacked perfectly? The story has a happy ending though. Her exact, indignant words were, "Where I'm from in New York they stack the cheese perfectly straight," and the guy behind her, a regular the local employees had greeted by name, piped up and said, "Well then maybe you should go the frick back to New York." Best moment I've ever had at work. I used to live in New York and have never once been to a deli that stacked cheese perfectly straight. Wonder what magical instance of NY she lived in. I was working at a coffee and wine bar when I had a man scream at me because he ordered the regular and I didn't know what he wanted. It was my first time meeting him, which, catastrophically, aligned with the first time I was left to take care of the register alone. I couldn't get away from the yelling, "Where the heck do you think you're going?" in order to ask the people in the back what he wanted. His regular got written out, laminated, and pinned to the cash register after that. He kept screaming, "Do you know who I am?" over and over, which, no sir, I do not know who you are. This is the first time we met. Also it turns out he was no one but a dong. Lady walked into my office, asking for one of my colleagues. I explained to her that he actually works out of a different office, which is listed in his email signature and our website. She was upset, as she had documents to drop off to him. I explained to her that his office is only 3 minutes down the street if she wanted to make the drive, or I could scan her documents and email them to him. She refused. So I said, "Well, you can leave them here with me and I can ask the guy to come pick them up tomorrow." She again said no, because she didn't trust me. I explained that I am the director of operations for the company, basically my colleague's boss. She then yells that she doesn't know me and this is extremely sensitive information and storms out. 1 minute later, she comes in and asks for my business card to prove I am who I say I am. Lol. I give her one, and she leaves her stuff with me and storms off again. A woman I had never met or seen in my life asked me where her kids were. I was confused and said, "I'm sorry, I don't know," and she yelled and asked where they put them. She stormed off angry at me. I never had a clue why she asked me. I can tell from your kind eyes that they are in your heart and on your mind. This lady at Walmart once got really peed off at me because we didn't sell pasteurized eggs, and this wasn't the loud, screaming kind of peed off. She just looked at me very intensely and spoke at low volume, over enunciating every syllable, and said, "Tell your managers to order pasteurized eggs This other lady grabbed my arm and started pulling on me, telling me that the fact that we shut down our sewing department felt like we had killed her child, and that less and less people were going to come to Walmart because of stuff like that, and that we would have to close down. They noticed I had an accent. I'm from Southern Virginia and North Carolina area, and pointed it out as Russian. I don't know how they possibly thought my accent was Russian, but I corrected them and they got angry that I was being condescending to them. The personification of a Facebook moms group troll looking for a fight regardless of logic and sound maturity. My first job was in the produce department of a local grocery store. One morning, a middle-aged woman came in and asked me if we have any organic pears in the back room because the ones up front didn't look great. I explained to her we would be getting our shipment in the following morning and she could come back then to pick some organic ones up, or we have regular pears available in the next row. She did not like this. Aside from getting yelled at, she requested to speak with my manager, who also had to get an earful of complaints. This isn't anything super out of the ordinary and I was kind of used to the occasional upset customer. What killed me though is as she is about to walk away, she turns and says, "I'll be back tomorrow to get the pears." I don't know what my bird is going to eat today though. He has to eat organic. Because I didn't open up shop an hour before opening time. Because he was here now, so opened the store, he kept banging on the door and then threw a metal bucket at my head. Good times. Let me in. Let me-in-n-n-n-n. Worked at Walmart and this guy went through my line buying something for his tires. He accidentally got two different things. One was a lot more expensive than the other. He got peed, looking at his receipt, and demanded to know why one cost more money. I looked at the products and noticed one had some gel inserted in the product. I told him this and he demanded to know why this made the product more expensive. I explained to him I knew nothing about cars and was just a cashier, but he could go to customer service to exchange the more expensive product for the cheaper one. He then refused to leave my line until I lowered the price of the more expensive product. BTW, I was working the express checkout line on Friday at 5:30 and a huge line was forming behind this man-child. My manager finally got him to leave the line and go to customer service, though his son was in line behind him and apologized for his father's actions. Good son. Apparently when she said she wanted a hot fudge sundae, she meant strawberry sundae. We didn't have any Bibles that were large print, pocket-sized, and contained the full text of the Bible. Now, we had large print Bibles and we had pocket-sized Bibles, all containing the full text you'd expect. We even had a large print, pocket-sized Words of Jesus compendium. But this customer wanted a Bible that was all three. All the words, printed larger, yet somehow smaller when it was all put together. I tried to tell her that this was impossible, but she wasn't having it. I also had a customer that wanted a Bible that was in English, but somehow not a translation. He kept saying the original. He wanted the original Bible, but he didn't want the New Testament Greek one we had. He wanted the original, but in English. Well, every translation in English thinks they're capturing something of the original. I said, they do all this scholarship. I don't care about scholarship. He interrupted me. I just want the original. I ended up leaving him in the King James Version section and said, let me know if there's anything else I can do, while walking away quickly enough to not hear anything back. All of this was at a regular Borders, by the way, not a Bible store. I was working at a bank that no longer exists back in 2005 as operations supervisor of the teller line. I was working as a teller and it was a pretty busy day, maybe the first or third of the month, so the line was out the door with people. There was a customer who was coming up to my window and he was very irate and frustrated with the line. Makes sense. We had all the tellers on the line and it was still a monster. He'd probably waited like 40 minutes? I don't know, it's a blur for me, feels like 8 hours passes in a blip on those days. Anyway, he gets up to the window and he throws his checkbook at me through the little slot in a huff and tells me he wants to withdraw some money. It's at this point I should tell you that he gives me his Wells Fargo account, but we are, unfortunately, a Washington Mutual. I tell him as such and he starts raising all heck, calling me a bee and catty and that I have an attitude. Now, people get seriously mad over money, so I've experienced a lot of hostility. I felt objectively bad for the guy but also shocked that he'd get so mad. He eventually called my manager over to complain about me. We apologized for my behavior and he eventually left. Some people seriously lash out when they frick up. Customer ordered a dish that always comes with french fries. Got mad when he got his french fries because he wanted bread. NBD. I apologized, although I did nothing wrong, and brought him some bread immediately. Problem solved, you'd think, but he then started yelling at me because apparently the restaurant always serves this with bread. I should have just agreed with him, but I foolishly didn't. He told me I was wrong. I told him I had worked there for 5 years already, that I knew I wasn't wrong, and I advised him to tell staff that he wanted bread when ordering next time. At this point he got red in the face and screamed that he knew better because he'd been a customer for 10 years already, which is rich, since the restaurant hadn't even been open that long. Long story short, the owner came over to his table. She supported me. The guy ate his food that must have been cold by then and never came back. I'll never forget his poor wife, quietly trying to calm him down and to get him to let it go. She was incredibly embarrassed, but I doubt he even noticed. I used to deliver pizza. I had someone get irate and refuse the delivery because they'd ordered it to be delivered at 7 PM and I got there at 6:55. I hope people just stood there for 5 minutes refusing to hand it over till 7 exactly. I applied another discounts to the total instead of the promoted discounts to save her more money. Had to get into an argument with her just to explain I'm trying to save her more money. She wasn't having it. Pay more money. I don't freaking care anymore. Reminds me of when I was at Subway once and the lady in front of me ordered 2 6-inch meatball subs and at the end the guy was like, let me ring that up as a single 12-inch to save you some money, and the lady lost her crap. Guy was like, right, okay, 2 6-inch meatball subs it is then, you're right. I have 2 examples. 1. I was a teller for almost 4 years when I was in college, and I remember getting yelled at and customers growing angry with me because they were low on money or had checks bounced or a plethora of other reasons due to them lacking funds. How the Sam Hill is that my freaking fault? Also, in high school I worked at Toys R Us for a while and I caught a lady trying to shoplift. She flipped out and started calling me a racist. The GM came over and asked her to empty her bag if there was nothing to be found. Sure enough, there was a few pairs of baby shoes from the Babies R Us side of the store and a small toy. She threw the items on the ground and stormed off and intentionally knocked over one of our kiosk things. We reported it but nothing ever happened to her. A woman and her high school daughter walk up to me while I'm working in Bath and Body Works. Here's how the convo goes. Mom, we don't know what they are called, but you know those things you can wear around your neck and you clip keys or badges to them? Do you sell those here? Me. Oh, do you mean lanyards? Mom, what did you call them? Me. Nothing. You said you didn't know what those things are called. They are called lanyards. Unfortunately we do not sell them here. Maybe check Hot Topic? Mom, whatever. Thanks for wasting my time. As they turned to leave, the daughter turned behind to her mom's back and mouthed, I'm sorry, to me. Poor girl, that mom was nuts. You lanyard. The credit card terminal didn't work cause of technical issues, so something I had no control over and no power to fix as a cashier. Got yelled at by an older man who didn't understand how I could run a store like this. I was 17. My first real job was at a Culver's, and one of the regulars would always order a mushroom and Swiss. Hold the mushroom, hold the Swiss. When I finally had a chance to take the guy's order, I straight told him that we make the burger exactly the same as the standard hamburger, Butterburger, if you're familiar with the chain. Dude flipped his lid, started raving about how he used to own his own Culver's in another city and that if they were just using regular burgers for the mushroom and Swiss, that he'd take it right up the chain and get us all fired. Having been to Culver's last night, it seems to me that what he really wanted was to be charged $2 more than the regular price for a regular Butterburger, but to receive a regular Butterburger, I might be inclined to accept his terms. I'm a flight attendant, and once a passenger got mad at me when I answered her question of how long the flight would take. Apparently 4 hours to go across the country was not satisfactory. Okay, then, not a whole lot I can do about flight time. She was so upset she then refused to order a beverage from me. Yup, you sure showed me, lady. I used to work for Best Buy and Geek Squad but would cover PC occasionally. I had someone get mad at me because the quality of Intel chips has been steadily going down and they wanted me to give them a discount to buy an Intel laptop. They obviously knew it was a manufacturer's thing as they even talked to me about how Intel is pushing their resources into quantum computing and not advancing current hardware the same way. Like, I can't just call someone at Intel and tell them to change their focus. I can't give you 20% off a new laptop because you dislike AMD and the price for performance doesn't really match anymore. This sounds like when my father-in-law started calling his son, who has a job in oil and gas, every time his gas prices changed. I had several people yell at me after I called them out for trying to steal crap, even after pointing out the cameras in the store. Some would guarantee I would be losing my job after they spoke with corporate. Because I agreed with her, she said her credit was bad. I pulled it shortly after to agree, yeah, your credit is bad. Didn't go over very well. Lol, I feel this. I work at a bank and have had a customer joke about how low their balance is and laugh about it. I chuckled along as a courtesy and they got paid. Oh well. I used to work at GameStop. One time this guy came in, I asked him if I could help him with anything and he assured me he needed some time to look before I helped him. Then the phone rang with a customer who had like 10 minutes worth of questions. The other guy waited for me to get off the phone just so he could be that I took too long to help him, so he was taking his business elsewhere. I absolutely told him that I could not care less if he left and didn't buy anything. Ugh, GameStop customers. I had one get mad at me because I had no idea what the game lineage was. He meant fricking lineage. He got caught having his 4 and 6-year-old nephews hide merchandise under his wheelchair for the third time. Mostly video games and controllers. He accused me of hating disabled people as he was being kicked out. I was just the cashier by the front door. Literally wasn't involved at all. I worked at a Burger King in high school. A guy comes in one day complaining he put in money to get a newspaper in the machine outside, and it wasn't this Sunday's paper. He wanted a refund. I told him we didn't own that machine, and we weren't able to give him his money back. I also mentioned to him it was actually Saturday, not Sunday. He flew into a rage, threw last week's Sunday edition of the paper all around the restaurant and behind the counter. My manager comes out and threatens to call the cops. Dude leaves screaming about how we ripped him off. Sometimes you can't fix stupid. I was a department manager in a health and beauty section, next to the pharmacy of a grocery store. A guy came in and asked for an antifungal called Meconazole that the doctor suggested for an infection on his face. Now, as some of you may know, Meconazole is very commonly used for yeast infections in the vag, so it is sold by the feminine hygiene products, pads, tampons, etc. I took him over there, pointed out the Meconazole and showed him that we carried a generic store brand as a cheaper alternative. Dude was absolutely peed off that I suggested he put coochie cream on his face and demanded to speak to a manager. I told him that I was the department manager and he argued, saying there's no way a chick is in charge of men, and left. Or so I thought. Apparently, he had wandered the department and found the nearest male employee, who then brought the customer to his manager, me, when he had no idea where or what Meconazole was. The customer refused again to listen to me, so I told the stocker to bring him to the pharmacist, also a woman Lomeo, to discuss his needs. Next thing I heard was him screaming at the pharmacist, demanding to talk to someone who knew what they were talking about. He was asked to leave and eventually security was called to escort him out when he continued to rant and rave about women who know nothing about his medical needs. This mouse is looking for friends in the comments. Comment mouse boy to befriend him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.